Again. Done.
Good evening. Welcome to the Reloading Podcast. Tonight, we're just kind of going through a couple of questions that we posted in the Reloading Room to kind of see what questions people have, and just kind of going through and doing a question and answer session tonight. So, well, first off, what did everybody do in firearms this week? Or reloading? Jim, you want to start off?
Well, today I spent about an hour working on that bullet swaging press project I've got going on. I had to bore out the hole in the top plate. Now that stuff gets kind of boring after a while. But yesterday I took a couple relatively inexperienced shooters to the range, and after that we had a steak dinner.
Tasty.
Yes, sir. It was a good time.
Well, I tracked down some powder this week so I can get my shotgun reloading done, and found out that our local high school, there's a couple people that are looking at starting a trap shooting for the school, but doing it as a club sport initially. So it looks like I'm going to be looking for a lot more powder and a lot more shot. So because my niece is going to be on that team if they get it going, and then my boys are probably going to be on that team too. So. And then that was about it for me this week. Jason, how about you?
Nothing. I was bad. I didn't do anything this week.
You've got a cattail in your face.
Yep. Now I have an entire cat. Sorry.
That was really professional. Mike, I do have a question for you about the reload. Mike, I do have a question for you about the reloads for the shooters.
Yeah.
In Eldred, they because of the age of the shooters, they are required to use factory ammunition.
I know for 4-H, for the actual competition, they're required to use factory ammunition also, but this is going to be more for practice. So okay. It's going to be set up. The loads I'm using are going to be very, very similar in pattern and in power to a factory load. I'm not reducing their recoil or anything like that. That way they don't have to adjust their aim. But the idea is that way you can get a little more practice in for a little less expensive.
Oh, so. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What powder did you find, Mike? Did you find your unique?
I didn't find any of that. I found a couple pounds of some powder I'm going to use for some handgun that I'm going to be doing for a couple of people. They're actually buying the powder, so I just found where it was, told them go get it, and then they're buying the dies and everything, and then I'm going to show them how to load. Okay. So one of them I'm hoping to be able to record that and kind of use it as a just a video just a video on YouTube. So we'll see if that works or not. So.
All right.
Well, so Jason was nice enough to post on the reloading room on Facebook a question about what are some of the topics people would like to talk about. So the first one was, of course, availability of .22 and gunpowder, which we kind of covered quite a bit last week. It's out there. It's a matter of how bad you want it. If you expect your local supplier to consistently provide it, you're probably going to be sorry out of luck. But if you want it bad enough, then get online, and it's out there. There is .22 out there. There is gunpowder out there. You just have to be able to want to invest the time and energy to find it. It may not necessarily be your first choice in powder, which kind of leads us to another question. Excuse me. Earl Cormney said, "What powders can be substituted for each other?" And while you can't just straight up, say use, 16 grains of red dot in replacing 16 grains of unique in a shot shell, there are some options. Jim, I'm sure you've had to come across that where you can't, maybe are trying something different, or don't have your primary powder you want at the current moment, or maybe you're trying a different load or something, and kind of explain what you do if you're not going to use your primary powder and your primary recipe?
Well, it's really as simple as can be. You just take and develop a new load with another powder.
Yep. Use your load.
You don't want to lock yourself in because that IMR 4064, although it's a fabulous powder, if it's not available, what are you going to do? And you want to make ammunition come hunting season. You want to take and you want to be versatile with your ammunition.
Absolutely.
Versatile, flexible, whatever you want to call it. You need to be able to take and think outside the box. That's one of the things I've learned from the reloading room itself. I'm the person that's benefited the most from the reloading room. It's like I have learned so much from the people and the members, and they've been so generous. The only thing I do basically is just tell people what to do anymore.
Yeah.
It's been great. It really has been good for me. I know that.
Jason, have you had any instances where you wound up switching a powder on a particular load?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have. And like Jim said, I just started from the beginning and worked up a load for it. I could not find a duplicate powder.
What was that, if you don't mind telling us, Jason?
H4350.
Oop.
But my son really likes it for his rifle, and I didn't want to chew all the powder up, so I just went and bought some other powders and started playing with them until I found something I liked.
What did you substitute for the H4350?
H335.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of there right now. I'm going to be swapping out Win 748 for some IMR 4064, mainly because I don't have enough 748 right now to make up as much as I want, and I have a full pound of 4064 that I just happened to find laying around my gun safe. So, anytime you find powder you didn't know you had, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So the next one, I personally don't have any experience with, but I remember Jim saying something about how he had some. Matthew Wayne DeVilbus wants to know about the usage of bulk surplus powders.
Very good question, Matthew. I use WC-846. It's not a canister grade powder, but all the powder that I bought is the same batch. Manufacturing batch, I should say, lot number, and all that sort of thing. So basically, they gave me a little bit of data that it's comparable to using BLC2, which is a Hodgdon powder, and I just simply took my data, went to the charts, and if it said for 5.56, if it said 27.9 grains. Well, obviously, I've always been a proponent of safety, so I took that data, 27.9 grains, which actually won't even fit in the cartridge, I don't think, but whatever. But I reduced it by 10%, and then I just simply started my load from there. Just reduce by 10% and start from there.
Okay. Jason, have you run across any of the bulk surplus?
Yeah, I got, I believe it was the WC-844, I think, comparable to H335. And like Jim, I just started low and worked my way up until I got my sweet spot. And hi, Matthew. Matthew is a personal friend of mine, so I just want to say hi.
I like his picture. Keep calm and reload.
There you go. And the next one down would be from the Jeremy Rowland. The pro, he's got a good one. The proper
Yeah.
way to do a workup. I do mainly rifle, but I do see a lot of too large of jumps. Not on here, but on the forums, which can get dangerous quickly if you're not used to a powder. Or reasons for separating head stamps when doing workups and or loading rifle in general.
Well, I can cover the second part. Reasons for separating head stamps. When these different companies make the different brass with the different head stamps, usually the alloy composition is about the same, but how close to specs can be quite a bit different. You may have one where your neck length or your neck size is slightly longer than another one. So if you separate them out by head stamp, you're going to more than likely have a batch that's all going to be about the same size. In just general, like hunting loads, it's not going to be as big of a deal until you start getting into precision loads. Then you're going to be weighing those and trying to get each piece of brass to be as similar as the next one to really help control all the different variables that you get in long distance and precision shooting.
Another tidbit that'll make you crazy, not just weighing the brass, weighing the water capacity of each case to try and get them everything the same, because what that'll do, if you get your cases within a tenth of each other, sure, tenth of a grain of each other, sure, that's fine, that's great. But what about the case wall thickness? You can't measure the case wall thickness down by the base, but you can measure the water capacity. And that was a very good indicator of the case wall thickness.
Exactly. All right, so the first part of that,
proper way. Yep, go ahead, Mike, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say the proper way to do a workup. So Jason, when you're doing a workup for a new load, tell us your process.
Start at the bottom end, and I think normally I'll do 2/10 of a grain. Usually 3 rounds per whatever weight, and go up 3/10 of a grain, and that's about it.
Okay. Jim, when you're doing one, how do you start out?
I like the ladder load technique. I used to do it the way Jason's talking about, where you take in, you break it down maybe half a grain at a time. With Jason's did a little bit finer than I did, but I like the ladder loads. What I'll do is I'll take the spectrum. If somebody says, Jim, try IMR 4831 in your 308. Well, number one, I won't do it because I know it's too slow. But for my 270, it actually likes to IMR 4831. If I were working up a load, what I will do is I will take in, I've got a spreadsheet created, and I'll take the minimum load, put it at the bottom, put the max load at the top, and when I put all the data in there, the spreadsheet will actually take and make a ladder for me, as it were, of 20 different increments, and I just simply load each one, and it usually adds up to about anywhere between a tenth and a half to 2.5 tenths of a grain of increment of separation. And when I shoot those 20 rounds, all at the same exact point of impact, when I get those 3 rounds that are that close to each other, even when they're literally touching each other, well, I know that I found my sweet spot, or at least really close, so I'll take and go 2.5 tenths above and below the middle of that sweet spot where those bullets were touching each other, and invariably I find that's where I get my most accurate ammunition.
Okay.
It's a variation of what Jason said. I just might not shoot quite so much ammunition.
Yeah, and that's kind of the nice thing about the ladder load is, you do, but the way Jason does it is probably going to be a little more, trying to think of the right word, probably a little more,
it's more methodical. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's more necessarily for maybe the precision shooter. That's looking maybe for a couple different loads as they're doing it. okay, which one, and you're looking. The nice thing about the 3-shot group for each powder weight is it's going to take the human error out of it more often than not. With a 3-shot group or even a 5-shot group, I don't do quite as many steps as you guys do when I'm making mine, but for the most part, mine are just hunting loads. So what I'm going to do is usually I'll start about halfway in between, do a 5-shot group and see how it does, and then split the difference. Do a 5-shot group at a quarter of the charge, and then a 5-shot group at 3/4 of the charge, just because I don't have a lot of extra time for range. So that's kind of the way I do that. So I'll go out with 15 or 20 rounds, usually 15 rounds, one at a quarter charge, one at half charge, and then one at 3/4 of a charge. I don't usually bother with max charge because I've never come across any issues where it's actually going to be even close to accurate as far as groupings.
It's interesting you say that, Mike, because the sweet spot I found on that 243 that I just did, the last one I worked the load up for, that sweet spot was about 0.3 of a grain above minimum. Not that I'm not trying to say that's what's going to happen every time, but it's like it was just interesting because it seems like the milder loads, that deer's not going to really care if he gets hit with 2,800 feet per second bullet or 2,750. He's not going to care. He's going to be if you place a bullet right, stuff like that, everything will be golden. But the point is, don't discount the minimum loads.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just to get a little passionate about that.
Oh no, and that's one of those things where if I've tried all 3 of those and nothing works, then I'll kind of split the difference again. But I think probably mine is just based on my particular rifle, and that's what I'm been loading for historically is just my 308 and knowing kind of what range it likes. And then depending on, usually what I've changed is the bullet more than the powder. Now I'm going to be changing the powder, so I'll probably be doing a little more extensive workout. But it's just another one of those different options that, maybe it'll save time, maybe it won't. So that's kind of where I'm at with my workout. But, all 3 of them work great. There's nothing wrong with any of the 3, depending on the circumstances you're doing. Obviously, probably Jason's is going to be the most meticulous. Jim's is probably the easiest to find the sweet spot because it covers the different areas a little quicker, just 1 shot per. And then mine's kind of more of the swag method, scientific wild ass guess to a point. So.
All right, Jason, you want to read the next one from Randy Sullivan?
Sure. Bullet casting, hardening lead, hardness testing, shooting lead through a Glock.
Well, first thing, before we go any further, Mike, I just sent you a link on Facebook.
Yep.
That link is to the article I wrote on shooting lead through my Glock 22. Okay, if you would please, sir, include that in the show notes.
You bet.
Thank you. Okay, Jason, go ahead, please.
All right. So, how do you answer bullet casting on a video podcast? You get some lead and you melt it and you pour it in a mold and it's all good, right?
We wish it were that simple. Hardening lead. I've got rather extensive experience with casting, and Jason, I know you're coming up right behind me real fast. But and I know that hardening lead, number one, the best way is to, if you're using pure lead, would be to take and sweeten it up with some antimony and some tin. Tin not so much for the hardness, but to help improve fill out. But you could take and actually go with a Lyman number 2 formula. I think it's 95, 5, and no, I forget. 95, 5, and 95, 3, and 2, I think it is. That sound right? 95, 3, and 2? 95 lead, 3% antimony, 2% tin. I'll do a web search on Lyman number 2 formula. But anyway, the best way that I know of to actually harden lead is to take and use the alloys. But there's alternative methods to that, like Salvatore Cincomani was telling us a long time ago, that you can actually temper bullets in the oven. You bring them up. I think he said he baked them at 450 for a while, and then he took them out. Just let them cool slowly, and it hardens the snot out of them. Hardened Lyman number 2 alloy. Let's see here. To make 10 pounds of number 2 alloy, use either the two following recipes: 9 pounds of wheel weights plus 1 pound of 50/50, or 4 pounds of linotype. And then I got the pages got to load. This is from Lyman Products themselves. Oh, where the heck is it?
Doo-be-doo-be-doo.
Yeah, really. Sorry about that. Sorry about the excellent preparation.
Okay. There we go.
There it is. 4 pounds of linotype and 1 pound of 50/50 equals 5 pounds plus 5 pounds of pure lead. Or 10 pounds of number 2. Make 10 pounds of number 2. Use 9 pounds of wheel weights, 1 pound of 50/50. Lead tin bar solder. And the Lyman number 2 is considered to be just about the perfect alloy for bullet casting. And with the various ingredients and so on and so forth, there's guys now that are powder coating. I don't know what the temperatures are that are powder coating, but I wonder if they're actually hardening the lead underneath the powder coat.
That's a good question.
I
will
know
look
who would
that
have
up.
the answer. I know who would have that answer, but I got a feeling he's not on this podcast tonight.
No.
A gentleman by the name of Glenn Frizzell. Jason, you know who Glenn Frizzell is.
Mm-hmm. From bullet to ingot?
Yes, sir.
Or ingot to bullet, however that is.
Yep. I hope that answers your question, man. Oh, shooting lead through the Glock. Jason, I know you got some experience in doing that. Go ahead, please, and I'll follow right behind you.
First thing is size. Size matters. When I first started shooting lead, I was buying cast bullets, and they were leading my barrel, so I was paranoid about it. And I started asking Sal and Jim on cast bullets about it, and they convinced me to start casting my own. So when I started, size was my first thing, and then hardness and bullet lube. And I don't have any problem shooting cast through my Glocks, and they will be squeaky clean when I'm done. They don't let up at all.
Yeah, but remember, Jason, Gaston Glock advises us not to even bother with reloads to our guns.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah.
But anyway, I started out with a brand new Glock 22. It was stock Glock, but it was an NRA gun and won it and all the whole 9 yards there. But I was actually testing a product called PB Blocker, and the article is in the show note. Will be in the show notes. The link to the article. You have to be a member of Facebook, not a member of the Reloading Room, but a member of Facebook to view the link that Mike's going to put in the show notes for us. But anyway, I went through a whole article, and even that article includes some pictures. And basically, I got over 1,000 rounds of lead bullets, excuse me, cast bullets, through my Glock 22. I've had no issues. and I probably put 2,000 or 3,000 through it since then. You know, a lot of
So
folks. Go ahead,
the
Mike.
quick question is, how does PB blocker work? Is it a coating you put over the bullet, or is it something you mix in while you're mixing it?
I'm sorry. A PB blocker is a barrel treatment system. You actually warm. You take the barrel out of the gun, and you clean the barrel. Make sure you get it as clean and copper-free, lead-free, whatever you want to call it, as you can. Then once you get it all clean and dry, you take what I did is I literally slathered it on the inside of the barrel as with a Q-tip. I mean, I slopped it on there, and I let it. Oh, I take that back. I forgot an important step. I warmed the barrel up. Once it was clean and dry, I took my wife's blow dryer, and I warmed that barrel up. They set it to about 150 degrees. Well, I don't know what 150 degrees is. I warmed it up so warm that I couldn't hold it in my hand, but I knew, the blow dryer wouldn't heat it up enough to take any of the tempering out of the steel. So once the pores were opened up by the heat, I slathered the PB blocker in both ends of the barrel and all 360 degrees. Excuse me. But anyway, after I did all that, I let the barrel set for 24 hours. And it didn't dry out, but what I did was I just simply ran a patch through it, and I started shooting the darn thing, and got 1,000 rounds out of that particular treatment. Had no problem, and I don't hesitate to shoot lead to my Glock anytime whatsoever. I've shot some factory ammo and a few fact out of it, but no, my Glock is a handgun, and handguns in my house get fed a pretty steady diet of lead bullets. Now, when I say lead, folks, I'm not talking pure lead. I'm talking cast bullets made from wheel weights or range lead. Usually it's a mixture of 50-50, wheel weights and range lead. Excuse me. That's been my experience with shooting lead bullets on my Glock 22. The idea is you harden the bullet up enough so that it can engrave the rifling. It also, now I fire my bullets as cast as they drop out of the mold. And the mold, Jason, have you ever mic'd that bullet at the heel?
No, I haven't.
I think you're going to find it's about a 405, maybe a 407, and that's just that little tiny driving band at the heel of the bullet. And now the Hensley Gibbs clone that I'm using, I think it's casting at about a 403. A little bit fat, yeah, but you know what? That's what makes that beautiful seal between the wall of the bullet and the wall of the barrel. That's what keeps the gas cutting, and the gas cutting is what's causing your leading.
So, excuse me. So when you're saying gas cutting, for those that don't know, you want to explain gas cutting a little more in detail? Sure.
Gas cutting is, let's just say you're shooting back to that same Glock. You're shooting a bullet, a bore. The bore diameter is actually 400 thousandths. That's the large diameter in the barrel. Excuse me. Well, if you're shooting a bullet that's like .398, your bullet is a little bit undersized. It's going to rattle around sideways in the barrel. Well, the other thing is too, the bad thing about that is the flames from the igniting gases can actually work up between the wall of the bullet and the wall of the barrel, and that little tiny space that's in there. And what will happen is it'll start melting the walls of the bullet because it doesn't have anywhere to go. And that's what's called gas cutting, because once it starts melting it cuts off the lead and it leaves it deposited on the walls of your bore, your barrel, just like Jason and I were talking about. Yeah, I've had lead in my Glock, but that was before I treated it. Jason has too. But no, generally speaking, the gas cutting is caused by an undersized bullet. Now, it sounds like it might be a little bit. I'm using lead bullets, not jacketed. Now, jacketed bullets, I do believe, come up 0.401 thousandths in diameter. But my lead bullets, they're quite a bit softer compared to copper jacketing. So it's not going to create the pressure. It's not going to have the resistance to the engravement of the rifling that the jacketed bullets will.
Okay. So, question with that: since they are slightly undersized, have you noticed any accuracy issues, any consistency issues?
What is undersized, Mike? Maybe I didn't understand your question.
Well, the jacketed bullets are slightly oversized, and then the cast bullets are slightly undersized.
Oh, that's bad. That's an undesirable thing if you do that. You don't want your cast bullets undersized. You want them to be ever so slightly. I'm talking 0.02 oversized.
Okay.
Sorry.
But they're slightly smaller. They're slightly smaller than the jacketed bullets, is what you were saying, though.
If I said that, then I was incorrect.
Okay. All right.
That was just in reference for gas cutting.
Okay. Just for jet. Okay.
Oh, that was okay. Yeah, that was just an example.
Yeah.
The bullets that
Okay.
I literally cast, they come up about. I'm thinking the ones I cast from the Lee mold, they come up about 0.407, maybe a 0.406. And that's actually what you want to do. You want to take and have that little bit oversized, because that pressure of that resistance of that metal to metal contact doesn't allow the flames to get past the wall of the bullet, past the gill of the bullet. Sorry, that was my mistake.
Excuse me.
All right, I think hopefully Randy just put a like on my comment. The podcast is going live.
Okay.
And Mike, I'll tell you something. Get into a tangent a little bit here, if you don't mind, sir.
No, not at all.
I think this idea of making the Facebook page, the Reloading Room, bringing it into the Reloading Podcast, bringing up names, giving folks shout-outs, I think this is one of the best things we have stumbled across since we started doing the podcast.
Absolutely.
Because these are folks, these are friends, these are relatives, whatever you want to call them, and it's like, if they're listening to it, they're going to see hear their own names come up, hear their own questions.
And that's what we want to do, is we want to cut. This is, when we get back, this is what we're going to do for kind of a good chunk of the summer, at least we'd like to, as long as we keep getting the questions in, is going over these questions, answering these questions. Then when it comes to fall, we'll get back into, we're going to roll through the shotgun shell reloading. When we get closer to fall, so probably the end of August, beginning of September, right before, probably end of August, right before waterfowl season kicks off, we'll do that couple episodes on shotgunning reloading. So, but yeah, this is a great thing, because we're going through, they're asking the questions, we're answering them on the podcast, and we're drawing upon all the experience, and then also, it may bring up other questions that other people have, and then they're going to post. Plus, the nice thing is we've got a lot of different options here. We're only going to get through about half this post tonight, so
wow,
because it's already, we're already 40 minutes in, so it doesn't take long to go through most of this. The next couple are a couple of questions that we could probably spend quite a bit of time on. So I think what we're going to do is.
Randy asked about hardness testing as well. I don't believe we covered that.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that one.
That we did not. So that's what I'm looking up right now. Is there? Jim comments in his PB article that his article about PB blocker, that he didn't have a hardness tester. So that's what I'm looking up right now.
I have a hardness tester now.
Right. So if you guys want to talk about hardness testing, I am going to look and see a couple of different kits. I found Lee makes one. So
right.
Is that the one you have?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Jason. Do you have a hardness tester?
Yes, and the name is escaping me right now.
Seiko?
Uh-uh.
Okay.
Can't remember. I had a Lee, and it was difficult for me to use that. When you have that little microscope, you know that can be difficult sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was trying to test my muffin ingots in my press, they didn't always fit in there. So I ended up going with this other brand, Cabin Tree, I believe. Cabin Tree. I think that's what I got.
Interesting. That micrometer you're talking about is actually designed, if you actually set it right on the ingot or the bullet that you're testing, if you could actually let it sit just like that onto it, it's designed to come up to be in focus. Yeah, it's hard because you got to think backwards. I know exactly what you're talking about to make the measurements. If you want to move left, you got to go right. Huh? What did I say? Yeah. And if you want to move up, you got to go down. Yep. But yeah, it's a little bit difficult, but I do well with it. And the other thing is too, I made sure that I have that chart because I wound up losing it there for a long time. I made sure I have that chart. I scanned a copy and put it up online, up in the Google Cloud, so I wouldn't lose the darn thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a conversion chart. What it does is you actually put a ball detent in your bullet alloy or your bullet, and you actually measure the diameter. You put a certain amount of pressure. I think it's a 65-pound spring, and you put a certain diameter ball at the end of that spring, and you put a certain amount of pressure on that bullet for 30 seconds. And once you do that, you take it off, and then you take that micrometer and you actually measure the diameter of the detent that the ball makes. And that you convert over it directly into measurement, or directly into Brinell hardness.
I was on Brownells. They've got what they call, let's see here. It is a Seiko hardness tester. And SAECO. And it just, let's see here. Basically, it's a different setup, and it uses the vernier scale to check, and it's about $140. I didn't see the Lee one on there. The Lee one I did find on Midway, so I'll put a link for that also.
Yeah, the Lee one was about half the price of the Seiko. That's why I went with that.
Yes. I'm sure there's probably a couple other ones out there that I can find. So I'll put links for those in the show notes too. So, but the Lee one's a little setup different. Lee one's designed to use in a press, whereas the Seiko one looks like it's a standalone. There's a couple different options, and we'll see what we can find for more. Like I said, I'll put those in all in the show notes, and you'll be able to take a look at all the different ones. But yeah, it definitely, if you're casting your own, especially if you're doing powder coating or you're messing with your alloy mix, a hardness tester is definitely something you want to have, so you can tell how hard or soft they are. You don't want to get that lead too soft. Then it doesn't necessarily stay in form well when it's going down the barrel.
That's right. It'll deform won't engrave the rifling properly. The other thing is, too, there's another piece of equipment that's very valuable, and it took me a long time to realize how valuable it was, and that's a casting thermometer. I just bought one last year. I don't know how I actually managed to reload or cast my bullets without it.
Blind luck.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, I was running my alloy quite a bit too hot, is exactly what it was, which is why I was always getting frosty bullets. in a way, I kind of taught Jason to cast, in the reloading room just by telling him how I made the settings
Right.
on the pot. Well, come to find out, the settings I have on the pot, I was about 100 degrees. And Jason's obviously he's an accomplished bullet caster now. So, did you finally buy yourself a thermometer, Jason?
Yes, I did.
You must have bought yours before I bought mine.
I did. I bought mine a while ago.
Yeah. Oh, we're down to the next question, and this is one that y'all going to have to help me on because I don't know beans from bacon about it.
Well, I think we're going to save that one.
Okay, go ahead.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to save that next one for next week. So, and we'll get a few more between now and then. But, yeah, that one is going to be probably, that's going to be one of those that I don't know a lot about, but I'm in the middle of doing research. I'm waiting to hear back from a couple people to see if they can, get some information and maybe get somebody on next week for that particular item. But it's one of those that it takes a while to go talk about, because there is a difference between using black powder, especially when you get into shotgun. For cowboy action shooting, especially, there's different regulations and stuff, and I honestly don't know what they all are. Jason, do you by chance?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But I think Jason and I know someone who does.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be twisting on his arm.
Oh, yeah.
Get him on the podcast, Jim.
And he's got an iPad. So we know he can do the podcast.
Cool.
All right. That sounds like a good plan. So we'll get a hold of him and we'll go through on that on next week. So for tonight, that would be wow. I am so screwed when I get old. I'm gonna be one of those guys wandering around Walmart just going.
You can't remember what you were doing, huh, Michael?
Pretty much. I saw something on Facebook today. It says, I'm at the age now where I consider getting lucky just remembering what I came in the room for.
Yep.
Yeah. So, anyway, hopefully everybody gets a good laugh off of that. So.
Boy, I'll tell you what, there are some good topics we just don't have the time to cover.
Right, and that's the thing is, some of these, you probably does, go, bullet casting. Bullet casting, we just kind of blew through. That's easily 2 shows, 3 shows easy.
Oh, yeah. We haven't even gotten there.
So, and that's something that we're going to do this fall, hopefully, is, be able to go through and show casting and show how to go through and do all that and do that step by step. At this point in time, we're just not set up to be able to do that. So,
I've got to make some kind of a holder for my iPod pad so that I can actually set it up on a tripod, hold it, and angle it to whatever I want it to be, like
right.
I do now on the desk here.
Yeah. So, on that note, folks, we're gonna sign off here for tonight. Thank you for all tuning in. We also want to thank our bandwidth sponsor, the Firearms Radio Network, and also just a reminder: go to thereloadingpodcast.com. If you guys are buying stuff from Brownells or Sinclair, all the same company, there's links on there. When you guys buy stuff on there, we get a little bit of a kickback, kind of help cover the basic costs. Same thing with Amazon. There's a link on there to go to Amazon. Anything you buy from Amazon. None of this costs you folks anymore, just a little extra time to take that extra step. What I've personally done is I just bookmark them. So that way, when I'm going to look for something for Amazon, I just click on that bookmark, and it automatically comes up. When I'm going to look for something from Brownells, I just click on that bookmark, and it comes up. It saves a lot of time, and it does help out. Even if it's just a $3 phone case off Amazon, it does help.
I just spent $150 on Amazon, and I went through the Reloading Podcast button. And you know what? I don't know how. I don't know anything about the numbers, but it was nice, knowing that I bought a set of tire chains for my lawn tractor. And
Awesome.
They weren't $150, but there was bought a tablet for my wife's girlfriend, stuff like that. It all went through the Reloading Podcast button.
Yeah, in the last couple months, we've been everything we've bought through Amazon, which is quite a few $100 worth of stuff. We've either, at first it was just the Firearms Radio Network link, and now that we've got our own for the Reloading Podcast, we've done that. So, it's just something we ask you guys to help out. Cover it. It goes to cover the cost of the bandwidth. So, it keeps it free. So, and it helps just helps cover the costs because server storage, uploading, that stuff's not cheap, unfortunately. So. Well, anybody else have anything else to add? Jason, you look like you're deep in thought.
I'm trying to pull up the Reloading Podcast webpage. Give me that webpage.
It's www.reloadingpodcast.com.
That's really complicated, Jason. Be careful.
I want to put the in the front of it, Jim.
We'll see. Yeah, that's the thing I started doing the first couple times too. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that 3-letter word will get you every time.
As long as it's not a 4-letter word.
We don't do that.
No, this is family-friendly broadcasting.
That's right.
There, now I got it.
But anyway, yeah, that's my wife and I have been talking about, because Amazon is just as good as going to the store at times. And if the purchase is large enough, $35 or more, it's free shipping. So
right.
It's like, why not let somebody bring it to our door, save us the fuel costs?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was real pleased to take and be able to help out. And off the air, Mike, I'd like to talk to you about that.
Sure. All right, folks. Well, once again, we thank you for tuning in. You all have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, folks. Nice talking to you.
Good night.
Good night.